You said on one of your tweets this week that if we'd had competent people in charge, we probably could have avoided lockdown 1. But you and the Prime Minister didn't consider yourself to be relevant to that meeting. Was there another meeting, or were you not the most competent, relevant people?
Well, as I said, I was having meetings about it, but I was having meetings with people like Patrick, by myself, or with 2 or 3 other people in a forum where I knew that they wouldn't leak. Lots of the COVID meetings are quite formulaic. In terms of the Prime Minister, the basic thought was that in February, the Prime Minister regarded this as just a scare story. He described it as the new swine flu.
Did you tell him it wasn't?
Certainly. But the view of various officials inside Number 10 was, if we have the Prime Minister chairing COBRA meetings and he just tells everyone it's swine flu, don't worry about it, I'm going to get Chris Whitty to inject me live on TV with coronavirus so everyone realises it's nothing to be frightened of, that would not help actually serious planning.
Did you hear him say, let the bodies pile high in their thousands, or it's only killing 80-year-olds?
There's been a few different versions of these stories knocking around. There was a version of it in the Sunday Times, which was not accurate, but the version that the BBC reported was accurate.
And you heard that?
I heard that in the Prime Minister's study.
Okay, next question.
That was not then, that was not in September though. That was immediately after he finally made the decision to do the lockdown on the 31st of October. I think that there was some brilliant, like in much of the government system, there was many brilliant people at relatively junior and middle levels who were terribly let down by senior leadership. I think that the Secretary of State for Health should have been fired for at least 15, 20 things, including lying to everybody in multiple occasions, in meeting after meeting in the cabinet room and publicly. By the last week by roughly the last 10 days of February, it was over 90% of what I was personally spending my time on, though there were other things kind of floating in and out. But it was certainly not. I think this is a really important point to register. The government itself and Number 10 was not operating on a war footing in February on this in any way, shape or form. Lots of key people were literally skiing in the middle of February. It wasn't until the last week of February that there was really any sort of sense of urgency, I would say, across in terms of Number 10 in the Cabinet Office. The truth is that senior ministers, senior officials, senior advisors like me fell disastrously short of the standards that the public has a right to expect of its government in a crisis like this. When the public needed us most, the government failed. And I'd like to say to all the families of those who died unnecessarily, how sorry I am for the mistakes that were made and for my own mistakes at that.
When even a disgraced figure like Dominic Cummings is willing to own up and apologise, isn't it time that the Prime Minister does the same?
Mr. Speaker, I take full responsibility for everything that has happened. I've said before, and he will recall, both in this House and elsewhere, I am truly sorry for the suffering that the people of this country have experienced. But I maintain my point that the government acted throughout with the intention to save life and protect the NHS and in accordance with the best scientific advice. That's exactly what we did. The handling of this pandemic has been one of the most difficult things this country has had to do for a very long time. And none of the decisions have been easy. To go into a lockdown is a traumatic thing for a country. To deal with a pandemic on this scale has been appallingly difficult, and we've at every stage tried to minimise loss of life, to save lives, to protect the NHS, and we have followed the best scientific advice that we can, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't think anybody could credibly accuse this government of being complacent about the threat that this virus poses at any point. We have worked flat out, Mr. Speaker, to minimise loss of life, to protect the NHS, while they have flip-flopped, Mr. Speaker, from one position to another, backing curfew one day, opposing it the next, backing lockdowns one day, opposing it the next, calling for tougher border controls one day, then saying that quarantine is a blunt instrument the next. Mr. Speaker, we have got on with the job of protecting the people of this country from one of the worst pandemics in living memory, if not the worst in living memory. We have turned the corner, and it is no thanks, Mr. Speaker, to the loyal opposition opposite.